To our listeners of the Healthcare Leadership Excellence Podcast, a warm welcome to today's program. We just have a great guest. I always say that, and I'm never wrong because we have great people. And I'm just excited to be able to talk with this person about his company, healthcare related, but much more importantly for you, the listener today, is his approach to leadership and the deeper philosophical levels that he drops it to that is definitely materials that you can walk away from today with I can use this. So I would like to bring in CEO, published author, Julio Martinez Clark. Julio, welcome.
Thank you, Carl. It's really a pleasure to be here on the show. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to the conversation. I look forward to inspiring your audience.
So, give us a little background, Julio, as to what brings you to our conversation today, a thumbnail of your years.
Well, Carl, I was born and raised in Colombia, and I've been living in the US for over 40 something years, probably more than that. I spent half of my childhood in New Jersey and half of my childhood in Barranquilla, Colombia. And I completed my university studies in Bogota, electrical engineering. I moved to the US officially just to start my career around 1995. I settled for a year or so in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, then New Jersey, then many other cities. The point is that I work for global telecom and networking companies, Lucent, Nortel. I got my MBA in the Boston area.
Where'd you get your MBA?
I got it in Western New England University in what's the name of the town where the Simpsons were? Western Massachusetts.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. The every town in every state in the United States has that town. I forget about it, but it's
Springfield?
no, where the Simpsons had their thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that Western Massachusetts, and I worked for Nortel for a few years in North Lucent, and I was leading the Latin American division for some products in Lucent. Then I moved to Miami, and I travel all over Latin America in that capacity. So I got to understand the region really, really, really well. And I was also in Europe for a while. So I've been around quite a bit. But most importantly is if we're going to speak about BioAccess, my company is my brother, Pedro. He was very instrumental in what we have created with BioAccess. He trained at Harvard, in Boston at the Beth Israel Medical Center as an interventional cardiologist, and he was kind of the genesis of BioAccess because he got involved in medical research and healthcare related matters, and now he runs a very large cardiovascular practice in the Miami area. So that's kind of a nutshell of where I came from.
So, to our listeners, we've got an international executive, CEO level, electrical engineer, and I've just got to add here, anyone that can survive the climate difference between Barranquilla and Minnesota has my lifelong admiration. Your poor body must have thought, "What are you doing to us?"
Yes. That's exactly right.
What a
That's
change.
exactly right.
We've got, and this is why I like this level of guest on our show, is you, the listeners, have access to not only high education, but also high experience internationally. And it's
Yeah.
probably going to surprise you some of the tracks we're going to go down. Julio introduced me to a book in our pre-call called The Whole Story. And is it by McKay or Mackey?
Mackey.
Mackey,
John Mackey.
the
Yeah.
CEO of Whole Foods. And there's a picture of a shopping bag on the cover. And in the bag, toward the back, you just can see the angle of a book.
Hmm.
And the book's title is A Course in
In
Miracles.
miracles, yes.
And there are a lot of skeptics out there about, business is business and it's just bottom line and cash flow and revenues, which of course are essential to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
However, they don't feed the soul.
Hmm.
And that's, Julio, what impressed me most about our pre-call is here's someone who has been with Lucent and the Nortels in
Yeah.
the Latin American market is a brutal market. The European market is a brutal market. And here, and you've written a book in Spanish, La Cebolla de Pandora. So,
Hmm.
published author, talk to us a bit about this Course in Miracles, because that's not something you see in most MBA curriculums.
Really not. I mean,
And
well,
talk
yeah,
to,
you're absolutely right. It's not a common topic of conversation, and most people kind of stumble upon it, and probably as you did, because we were just having a casual conversation. I don't know why I brought up the topic of John Mackey's book. Probably because of the timing. He just released that book recently, and my mentor, whom I told you about in our prior conversation, is the one who introduced me to A Course in Miracles. Indirectly, he introduced me to an author years ago called David Hawkins, who, yeah, MD, PhD. He had the largest psychiatric practice in New York in the 80s. And if you read Power versus Force by David Hawkins, you're gonna see the world differently. I 100%, 1,000% guarantee you that. Power versus Force. David R. Hawkins, PhD, MD, PhD, and he talks about A Course in Miracles, and that was my first um, encounter with the title of the book. Even though I didn't really pay much attention, but then years later, I wasn't really ready, I guess, and that happens with a lot of people that I talk to. They somehow get um, um, they somehow know about the existence of A Course in Miracles, but the timing is not right, and it doesn't resonate with them at that time. But I even bought the book years ago. I remember trying to read the book. I had it in my hands, and then I just abandoned the book because the way I was living my life, the timing of the events, it wasn't just aligned to the message of the book.
Mhm.
And then my mentor, Jose Fuentes, kept talking about the book. He kept talking about the book. And then the timing just became perfect. And then I picked it up, and it really resonated with me and has resonated with millions and millions of people. Uh, the book started at Columbia University, so it's not any random book that came out of nowhere, some psychedelic stuff or anything like that. It's just highly credible university level, PhD level people who um, put the ideas on paper. So if you look at the source of the book, the history of the book, and the message of the book is just about love. That's it. It's forgiveness and love and unity. I mean, who is against that? So if you are into love, forgiveness, and unity, I mean, you should read the book. It's as simple as that.
So I want to jump in here and because I know our audience, and right now I've got some people driving along or on the treadmill that are just rolling their eyes thinking, Carl,
Like, wow, yeah,
well,
who's this guy here?
yeah, but may I come back to the fact we have an MBA, electrical engineer, analytical you don't survive in telecom unless you're analytical.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
you don't survive in these brutal markets by going in there and
Yeah.
talking all about forgiveness, love, and unity.
Yeah.
However, the people that you're, again, I go to the book Power versus Force. If
Hmm.
you want to have a power within your people, the three words you're talking about here resonate with just about anyone in the 7.5 billion of us that are walking around.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
this question could take us the next half hour. Talk to us, dig in for us, and I'll be interrupting you on a regular basis with
Sure.
questions.
Yeah.
We talked about emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
Then you dropped us in our pre-call into spiritual intelligence.
Yes.
And then we talked about the inner journey. So,
Hmm.
why, or not why, but how have you integrated MBA and engineering thinking
Mm.
into these three areas?
Yes, Carl. When you go to engineering school or the regular schooling of anybody is more about cognitive schooling, right? Cognitive. Even though I went to a Catholic high school and also a Catholic university, the schooling or the way they make you think is cognitive.
Mhm.
You even think about religion. At least in my case, uh, I mean, since I was in preschool, I was in the same Catholic school, the Augustinians. All my teachers were from Spain, in Colombia. And the teachings were Catholic religion, but it was very cognitive. You understand Christ, you understand Jesus, you understand the story of Virgin Mary. This you have to go to mass, you have to do this, you have to do that. Very cognitive, but they don't really teach you love. They don't really teach you unity. They don't really teach you forgiveness. So they don't really teach you a way of life. They teach you a way to be successful in the material world. So that happened, but you don't realize that until later, right? So that happened in my primary schooling, secondary schooling, then university schooling, and at the MBA, of course. There are no topics of conversation related to love and unity and forgiveness. Everything is accounting, finance, marketing, sales, and organizational behavior, things like that, business in general. And I think I was fortunate enough to be in contact with this information, and even more fortunate enough to be able to act on the information. Because one thing is for you to listen to the information or to be in contact with the information, another thing is for you to act on the information. So the journey started when um, I was reading Power versus Force, as I said. Then I was in contact with the information, and then one thing led to another. And I think in major crisis is when you kind of switch gears, when you have accidents, when you have dramatic events in life, losses, is when you kind of stop and look to the right, look to the left, and kind of reason about what you're doing and where you're going, etc. You kind of put a pause on everything you're doing and reevaluate your life. And that happened to me. It wasn't an accident, even though it felt like an accident. It wasn't an illness or anything like that, but it happens to many people in those fashions. A car accident or cancer or a loss of somebody who is very important to you. But it happened to me in another capacity that doesn't really matter at this point. The point is that I was able to kind of see my life differently and act upon the information. And my mentor, Jose Fuentes, was instrumental in pushing me and pushing me and pushing me because you need a lot of repetition until you get it. And that's what happened to me.
Where, because you're talking today to people who are usually, Well, we go across the spectrum. We've got a few senior level leaders. Most of our people would be in the new leader to mid level and maybe lower upper echelons of leadership. But a lot of them are still learning or they wouldn't be listening to us today. And this is completely new territory, what you're diving into. So, because they've been to the marketing, they have their masters of healthcare administration, they have their hospital, they have their medical degrees, they have their nursing degrees. And especially with the crisis that healthcare is in right now, with cash on hand on some organizations being frighteningly low, things being cut back. And I can hear some of them saying, yeah, this is all well and good, but right now I've just got to figure out how to riff maybe 10% of my employees because I got that
Yeah.
from corporate yesterday. And he's talking about love, forgiveness, and unity. And I'm having to get rid of 10% of my people and then deal with the 90% who are angry that the 10% got let go. So with that scenario, Julio, speak to our listeners in that hypothetical situation about how love, forgiveness, and unity is not off topic right now. In fact, it's
Hmm.
probably one of the most important things that a
Yes.
leader can bring in. But talk to us about that from your experience and how this new person can say, oh, yeah, I can use that today with the 90% that are madder than a hornet at me because I let Jane go yesterday.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a tough question, Carl. A very smart question. Very difficult question to answer, to be honest with you, because it's a transformative journey that you have to go through. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't have the magic bullets. I wish I had. But in my experience, it takes it takes an instant. It really takes an instant to get it. But it takes a while to get to that instant,
Mhm.
right? And I think the best advice that I can give people is read John Mackey's book, because the book is framed around an actual company that went through all the issues that you're just discussing right now. A company that had leadership management issues, M&A issues. They were close to bankruptcy, laying people off, all the challenges that any company go through, and the ones that you were describing today, and how he was able to maneuver all that and become the successful leader um, uh, that he is now, and respected. Also, the M&A transaction that resulted from Whole Foods being acquired by Amazon was one of the most important transactions, 13 something billion dollars. It was unheard of in the grocery business. Anyway, the point is that if a leader like that can embrace these concepts, your listeners can, any of us can do it.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but it's just difficult to
I
answer
want
that.
to dig in as you've read the book, as you've applied some of these principles. What would be one or two of those principles, and certainly to the readers, that's a must read to our listeners. But what
Well,
would be one
yeah,
or two things that you would say to this nurse who's going onto the work
yeah.
site today that she's had her instant and she's just heard you talk and she's saying, I've tried everything else. Maybe I need to try this. As she walks in the hospital today, what are one or two things about the love, forgiveness, unity, this emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence that she can pull out of the hat, not in a techniquey way, but I'm
Hmm,
going to start doing this today.
hmm,
What would be one or two things you would suggest?
yeah. Well, I will say that smiling is the best external reflection of your inner being. If you are a walking, smiling machine, you are already in the mood or in the state of 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 making changes, of transforming people's lives and putting people at ease. In other words, you want to be in a state, and you can fake it until you make it. But you can be, and I do this on purpose every single day. This is part of my prayers every single day. I I am today an island of peace and a beacon of light. I am today an island of peace and a beacon of light. So when people come to you, when you're around people, they want to perceive you as an island of peace. When they come to you, they should be at peace. They shouldn't perceive you as somebody aggressive, angry, right? And also, they should see you as somebody who can give them a message that they haven't heard before, or a message that will make them feel better, because
I
it's about transforming people.
I love that. Um, Let me now ask another question with our hypothetical story. So our nurse is listening to us this morning and she's thinking, Island of Peace, beacon of light, be that smile. But Carl, Julio, remember, I just had to lay off 10% of my workforce yesterday. And if I come on the floor smiling and they're battering a hornet at me, how's that going to work? I buy off on this island of peace, beacon of light. Help me with this because I agree with you, but how do I pull that off without people thinking I'm just taking really lightly the fact that 6 people
Yeah.
don't have their jobs today?
Well, I think is well, another topic of conversation that I think is relevant today, or is important for everybody to talk about, is communication. How do you communicate things? How do you communicate bad news? Um, yeah, and this is an area where we all have to learn to deliver bad news. And bad news can be delivered in a better way. Um, I've delivered bad news smiling with clients. Sometimes I've had situations where I had to tell clients, you invested $150,000 in this project with us. The hospital that we hired to do your trial just said no. We changed our minds, and I have to somehow make it sound like it is the best option for all of us,
Mhm.
right? So you turn things around, and in the case of somebody who's laying people off, you could probably say, I will probably be let go tomorrow. I just want to convey to you that I feel sympathy for you, but this opens new opportunities for all of us, even for me, because I see the struggle that companies going through. Right in that direction, you move it, kind of the conversation in a direction where we're all here together, and I'm also being affected. I'm not keeping my job necessarily. The fact that you're leaving today doesn't mean that I will stay tomorrow. So if you make it believe like, or you make it sound like we're all here together, we're all affected by the economic conditions of the market, of the company, or whatever, I think people will feel more sympathetic about the message.
And what comes to my mind as you talk is what I've heard stated as strategic and situational leadership. If Julio has been the type of leader that has emphasized emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, he will have laid the foundation of that difficult conversation that then
Mm.
they will listen to a whole lot better.
Yes, that's a great point. That
And
is an excellent point. Yeah.
I think those are of our listeners today who may be struggling. they need to realize that what they do today and how they act formulates how they will be seen later.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
there's an excellent book written by Joseph Michelli, Strength Through Adversity. And he's one of the leading authors on customer service. And he's gone into Mercedes-Benz, Zappos, Ritz-Carlton, UCLA Healthcare. He's published, I think he just published his 12th book.
Hmm.
Um, and his whole premise is that setting down that layer of transparency and confidence allows people to deliver the message that you just role played for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, Island of Peace, Beacon of Light, let me now use that as a platform for another half page of questions I have here as I look. Oh, we're sunk. Uh, we talked about how to persuade people, or better, I don't like persuade, it sounds manipulative.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm Carl, the employee. You're Julio, my CEO. And you're taking your organization into a whole different realm that's going to cause Carl to really stretch his comfort zone.
Mm.
Maybe put myself at risk because it's a skill that maybe I don't have yet. How do you lead people to go into new areas?
Well, I have to do it all the time. We have to pivot our business model at BioAccess. I don't know how many times already. Um, and I think, as you correctly said, it's something that you built little by little. It takes time for them to see you as the leader. And I was just reading something related to this. I read, uh, well, I think the listeners know about the 48 Laws of Power. Robert Greene.
Okay.
It's a
They may
famous
not.
book.
Go into.
Okay. Yes, it's a famous book. Robert Greene is one of the best-selling authors, nonfiction authors in the world. The 48 Laws of Power are the essential principles for you to lead um, people. It's a must read a piece of literature for politicians, for CEOs, etc. Any leader has gone through 48 Laws of Power. Anyway, the point is that I subscribe to his newsletter. I subscribe to different channels that talk about his philosophy. And one of the things that he was that I've read recently was the topic of when you are faced with situations where where well, in other words, let me reframe it in another fashion. The market tells you the new age or the new way of leadership tells you that you have to be inclusive,
Mhm,
that you have to bring everybody's opinions into your decisions, that you have to have consensus as a leader, and people feel better when they feel that they were part of the decision to pivot a company, for example.
mhm,
And he says that's not necessarily the case, because deep inside, and we're talking anthropology here. We're not talking about leadership or anything like that. We're talking basic anthropology. Every every tribe has a leader, and he's a leader for something, because of something. And probably it was because of force, not power necessarily. Before, because they picked the leader who was better at hunting or whatever. The point is that since our early days in the caves, we need to have somebody who knows the way out of the cave, somebody who sees the light before us, somebody who can guide us through the jungle. We deep inside, we want to believe in that person, right? So if you position yourself as that leader, people will follow you. You just will trust your instinct. Of course, you can have all the focus groups that you want, all the town hall meetings that you want, and everything. But deep inside, everybody wants to follow somebody who seems to know the way out.
Beacon of light.
Yes, a beacon of light.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
I love the way you phrase that. Um, so I won't name the companies that you worked for because I don't want to sound like I'm throwing them under the bus. I worked with a mega company earlier in my career, and they were the largest in their industry, very conservative, New England based. Um, they refer the corporate headquarters was in this big building that people called the mothership. That should give you some indication. There was bureaucracy that was phenomenal. It wasn't IBM, but Lou Gerstner talks about the IBM bureaucracy that he took over,
Yeah.
and I think it was
Yeah.
92.
Well, I worked for Lucent. AT&T was no different. I mean,
Okay, so the department that is there just because it's been there, it has no function, but it has
yeah,
employees, and they're
yeah,
looking for a reason to exist. So now
yeah,
we have
yeah,
put bureaucracy on the screen in front of us.
yeah.
Any because healthcare is a staggering bureaucracy in some senses. And I talk to many lower mid-level leaders that are leading their nursing unit or their section, their neurosurgery section, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I hear, Carl, great idea, but that's
Mm.
not going to work in our organization. As a veteran, Julio, of some tech bureaucracies, any suggestions on leading with emotional and spiritual intelligence in a big bureaucracy? Any thoughts
That's a
there?
that's a great topic of conversation. First of all, I think it's important for the audience to understand the difference between the three because we have you have mentioned the three already three occasions or something. Cognitive intelligence is what is usually taught at schools,
Hmm.
math and how to function in the physical world.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence is kind of the second level of evolution of that cognitive intelligence.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a new thing. I started, I think, please remind me of the date in the 90s. I don't remember the name of the book. And well, the name of the book was Emotional Intelligence. I don't remember the
Yep.
name of the author who was a
Dan,
famous thinker.
Dan Goleman, 1993.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So that it became a bestseller because he introduced a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at the world, a new way of interacting in a workplace with emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
But there is a newer one. There's a more evolved version of that, which is now a spiritual intelligence,
Hmm.
which is your capacity to understand the humanity, your role in humanity, and how we are all together as a species,
Hmm.
how we're all citizens of the universe. It sounds like new age, but it's not. It's just spiritual principles that are in the Bible. It's
Hmm.
just that how you adopt those principles to our modern life. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I don't really know how to answer your question. This is it's tough. It's just not easy to kind of encapsulate everything in one simple answer because it takes time to develop these skills, Carl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's at least a starting point for
Yeah.
the people that are new to this journey? What would you recommend that if they're strong and cognitive, they've got enough initials behind their name to fill a book. The emotional intelligence they're getting a little better.
Mm.
It's still a stretch because companies say they promote it, but they really don't. And the spiritual intelligence, oh my goodness, whole nother planet.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I hear A Course on Miracles. I hear the 48 Laws of Power. Any I can do this today type of thinking that would help them at least get started?
Forgive. Just forgive people. Don't get angry. What's the point of getting angry? What's the point of holding grudges and resentments and holding guilt over something you did, you didn't do, somebody who over something who that somebody did?
But
Just
Julio, and
forgive.
this is rhetorical, but Julio, if I forgive John, John has been a jerk in my life for the last 5 years. He is, if I ever quit this job, he'll be the reason. I go to John and say, I forgive you. John's going to think, ha, Carl finally got the picture. I've been right, he's been wrong. So now I have license to be a jerk again.
Yeah.
That's what I think people, when they hear forgiveness, it's just giving John license to kill, and I don't want to be killed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
forgive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to me about how forgiveness, because I completely agree with you, but I know there's a lot of pushback in our you're wrong, I'm right world about forgiveness. Why?
Yeah. The thing is that the way we all understand forgiveness, and that's the way I understood forgiveness for thousands of well, for not thousands, but for my life. I mean, for my understanding of
Sure,
this, that's what I
sure.
want to say. Is that I know you did what you did, but I just want to be a nice guy, and let's shake hands, and nothing happened. Let's forget about the past.
Mhm,
That's a forgiveness that we are taught,
mhm,
right? But the other way of looking at forgiveness, and that's what the course in miracles talks about, is there's really nothing to forgive.
mhm,
There's really nothing to forgive because we are united. We are sinless. We are the word the A Course in Miracles uses the word Christ. We are the Christ. So we are one single soul that is confused. We're all confused. It's like in the example that I give people is imagine if your 3-year-old boy is playing in the living room and somehow he gets into the garage, he brings a can of paint, red paint, and he starts painting the floors. He throws he opens the can and he throws everything on the floor. Are you able to forgive him? Right? Most people will say yes, because he's innocent. He doesn't know what he's doing. So probably your coworker who is doing all this nasty stuff that you think are nasty, because that's also your perception, right?
mhm.
It may not be nasty for somebody else. But anyway, the point is that that individual is sinless. He is innocent. He doesn't know what he's doing. That's when Jesus was in the cross. I don't want to get into Christianism or anything, but it's a famous example in the Bible. He says, God, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. So this is the same principle. People don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, that is a huge point. And
Yeah.
I think our listeners, because there's probably some skepticism with what we're talking about, but there's marvelous research out there about the necessary mindset shift as we evolve as leaders. And what you're saying here, that's going to be a mindset shift that,
Yes.
like in my case, John, who up till our conversation right now, John wakes up in the morning, Julio, specifically wanting to bother me. I he, he is just, Julio, if you knew him, you'd agree with me. And I
Yeah.
had formed this narrative,
Yes.
John's wrongness, with a lot of evidence. But
Yeah.
your point, Carl, that is your perception.
Exactly.
And have I taken the time to get to know John? No, because I don't
Exactly.
want to get to know John because John's a jerk. Okay, Carl, good. But that's
Yeah.
your perception. John goes to birthday parties and people throw birthday parties for him and people
Yeah.
send him cards and
Yeah.
somebody likes him.
Somebody like him. Exactly.
And so your point here really, if anything of today, you have caused us to think at a different level, which I really appreciate. As we head to our close here, Julio, how can people get a hold of you? Tell us just a bit about this book. It is in Spanish, which for those of us who read Spanish is not a disadvantage. For those that don't, that could be a hurdle. Is it
Mhm.
is it going to be translated into English? Do you know?
Well, before I answer that question, I think it's important to understand the genesis of the book. The book is called Cebolla de Pandora, Pandora's Onion. It's kind of a play on words
Mhm.
on on Greek mythology. Pandora's box,
Yeah.
which wasn't really a box.
Mhm.
It wasn't really a box. If you read mythology, you read history, you can understand that it was just a misclassification of the vessel or the way Pandora was getting his message out, which in essence was Pandora was part of the Greek mythology, and the essence of the saying Pandora's box is that she was getting out of the it was an olive oil thing container. Um, a base, I think is the word for it. So Pandora was getting all the bad things about humanity,
Mhm.
hate, envy, uh, guilt, all the bad things about humanity, getting everything out of the base, but at the bottom of it was hope that humanity will finally understand how to live a better life. That there's basically a message is that there is hope. Although we are living in a crazy world with all these bad things happening around us, bad news, wars, whatever, there's hope that we're going to evolve and we're going to understand each other better and we're all going to prosper. So that's really the message of Pandora or the mythology around Pandora. And that's the message of the book. And I was fortunate enough, as I said at the beginning of the conversation, Carl, to be exposed to this type of information or knowledge, and was even more fortunate to be able to act on it by my own initiative, I guess. I don't know why, but it just happened. I just did it, and I am a different person than I was when I was in my 20s. The point is that the book is my my understanding of things in as of 1990. I think 1997 is when I published the book, because I noticed that there was a lot of information in English available for everybody
Mhm.
about these topics,
Mhm.
and Latin America was probably behind 300 years in these understandings. And I just wanted to do a service for my fellow Latin American people. The book is free. I just give it away. You download it for free on the internet. If you want to buy a copy of it, you pay Amazon for the printing and stuff. I make very little money on it. But it's basically a nonprofit type of initiative that I had because I really wanted Latin Americans to listen to the message, to be exposed to the message, because these are developing economies and not necessarily developing economies. And developing economies is a result of developing minds.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Julio, how can people get a hold of you if they want to dig in further with this?
yes, very simple. Just Google my name, Julio Martinez Clark. I am very popular on LinkedIn, very active. I have over 30,000 followers, so I post a lot of things. On Google, I've been on many, many podcasts as a host and also as a guest. So I also write topics about topics related to healthcare, about innovation, clinical research, So you're going to find me all over. And my phone number is around, my email is around. Or
Excellent.
just go to juliomartinezclark.com, probably easier. juliomartinezclark.com, and you're going to find my contact information there on the website.
Thank you for not only a wonderful pre-call, but for nearly a full hour of podcast with us today. It has been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl, for having me here. It was a pleasure.
And to our listeners, as always, thank you for being with us in another hour and appreciate your support and best of success in your leadership today.